Coming home. Dowd. Beloved. 4. Chosen one. The Firstborn of God. In the first volume of Coming Home, in the 10th chapter, To Dowd or Not to Dowd, we considered the 89th Mizmor. This is the psalm where YAHOWAH restates that Dowd is his firstborn son. So now, having listened to the haunting, melodious chords of the Song of Matzah leading to Bakowr, I'd like to share how this occurred by returning to Dowd's song. And while the answer that it boldly asserts regarding Dowd being Yah's firstborn is presented in the 27th refrain, its resonance is not only enhanced when heard from the beginning, based upon what we have just learned, this may take your breath away. As you read this Mizmor, your appreciation for it may be enhanced knowing that it is Dowd's song and it serves as the cornerstone of the covenant and of YAHOWAH's home on earth. It was written the same year it was set in place, the 60th Yabel year of 3000 Yah/968 BCE, 3 to 4 years after the conclusion of the first of Dowd's 3 lives. The 89th Psalm is the epitome of divine prose, perhaps the single greatest piece of literature ever written. A poem of insights to contemplate and comprehend, Mashyach, the lyrics to a song written to convey important ideas worthy of thoughtful consideration, a compound of to ponder the important questions regarding sakal, being circumspect and prudent, gaining insights and prospering from them, paying attention to understand while learning to comprehend, regarding, through, the constant and eternal, productive and established, steadfast, steady, profuse, continuous, permanent, perpetual, and enduring, one who is the beloved as the native-born strong arm, Ezraki, the cherished one arising from the land who is prepared for battle by being properly girded, from Izrak, strong arm and Chabab, the beloved and valued. Mizmor/Psalm 89, Dedication. I have chosen to sing, Shyr, about the loyal love, steadfast devotion, enduring favoritism, and genuine mercy, Chesed, of YAHOWAH, doing so forever, Aulam, on behalf of, all generations throughout time, Dowrah. With my mouth, I will make known, Yada, I will respect and reveal, demonstrating that I am familiar with, acknowledge, accept, and appreciate, your trustworthiness and dependability, your honesty and reliability, your steadfast commitment to the truth. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 1. Yes, indeed, KY, it is surely true that, I say, Amar, I express in words, declaring, and intending to say, now and forevermore, Aulam, the spiritual realm of the heavens, Shemaim, the abode of God in the 7th dimension, was established and is continually built to procreate a restored, prosperous, and productive family, Bana, was conceived and is constructed as a home to raise and fortify children, Nifel imperfect, on love and devotion, kindness and generosity, Chesed, affection and supportive benefits. You have fashioned and formed it to manifest within it, Kun Bahem, you have established and prepared for it, Hifel imperfect, your authentic character, your trustworthiness and reliability, Imuna, your validity and honesty, your dependability and steadfast commitment to the truth. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 2. Switching now to YAHOWAH's voice as he speaks of his son. I have established, cutting through separation, I have created, making a resolution by cutting off, as is the case with circumcision, a solemn agreement between parties with stipulations, responsibilities, and benefits, the Berith covenant for the family and home, Berith, the family-oriented relationship agreement which brings individuals together with action, commitment, and engagement in accordance with the stipulations required of both parties to the agreement, through my Bakowr chosen one, Bakowr any, on behalf of and for the individual I have personally decided upon, having preferred and selected under the auspices of free will, the one I favor for a special relationship and affection, from Bahar, to choose and decide and back on, to test, examine, and scrutinize. I have sworn an oath, and I will affirm this promise 7 times over, Shabat, I have made a binding commitment and I will always uphold the truth of this vow, Nifel perfect, to Dowd, Dowd, concerning the beloved, from Dowd, the one who is loved and who loves in return, my Ebed authorized agent and co-worker who serves on my behalf, Ebed any, my co-worker, associate, and servant, from Chabad, to work. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 3. According to God, and he's in the best position to know, a person can accept Dowd as the individual YAHOWAH chose to work alongside to establish his covenant family or die apart from him and it. And since all 5 benefits of the Berith are offered through the first 3 Moedim, Pesach, Matzah, and Bakowr, this means that Dowd fulfilled them. This is the end of the line for alternative views. There is no quarter here for the likes of Peter and Paul, Akiba and Maimonides, or for a New Testament and Talmud. YAHOWAH's plan and players are as presented in the books bearing YAHOWAH's name and nowhere else apart from the Torah, Nabi, Mizmor. Should you wish to argue against the message YAHOWAH and I are sharing with you, it will come at the cost of your soul. Now, continuing to listen to God, he says of his chosen one, Dowd, his son and our Savior. Forevermore, as an eternal witness to the restoring testimony, ad Aulam, to provide enduring guidance on reconciliation throughout time, I will prepare and establish, Kun, I will appoint, equip, develop, support and sustain, Hifel imperfect, your offspring and that which you sow, Zerah, Ada, your seed and what you have sown, your children and descendants, your posterity and family, even the yield of what you plant and cultivate for the harvests. In addition, I will construct a home, Wabana, I will establish based upon the son, procreating a family by restoring and fortifying the resulting children, showing the maternal influence on building up, for your throne and seat of honor, Kais, Ada, your authority and authorization, your place of respect, and your right to lead, on behalf of all generations throughout time, Dowrah, regarding the approach of every related child, and concerning the house, the home, and the dwelling place of successive encampments where people live and abide within the same family. Selah, pause now and contemplate the implications, Selah, take a moment to consider what has just been conveyed prior to moving on. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 4. Dowd's eternal and restoring witness is found in his Mizmor and Mashal. He revealed everything we need to know about YAHOWAH, his family, and the means to be part of it. Then in his second of 3 lives, he did what he promised so that we might live with him in his home. The seed Dowd has sown will be cultivated and harvested on Shabat and Towrah. Those who will be taken home during the 4th and 5th Micra are covenant and, therefore, Dowd's offspring. As we discovered when contemplating the prophecy about homes, who builds them and who lives in them, found in Shamuel/2 Samuel 7, YAHOWAH told his son that he would establish his throne forever. And now, we know that YAHOWAH, himself, will be building the palatial residence in which our king will reside. Can you even imagine how stately and elegant it will be? And yet, in spite of YAHOWAH being unequivocal in this regard, there are billions of morons who carry around a book containing this prophecy who still believe that Jesus will claim Dowd's throne and prove God a liar. And then there are millions of Jews who are not smart enough to know the name of their returning Messiah and King. Is it any wonder YAHOWAH despises religion or that he will exterminate the religious upon his return? While stupidity is contagious here on earth, according to the next statement, that isn't the case in heaven. And so, as we proceed, after listening to God extolling Dowd's role in our lives, the following sounds as if YAHOWAH is conveying his son's desire to direct our attention back to him. The spiritual realm, Shemaim, the heavens and abode of God, knows and appreciates, Yada, are aware and understand and thus extol, properly attributing and expressing gratitude, from Yada, to know, recognize, and acknowledge, Hyphal and perfect, your wonderful and marvelous contributions, Pale, Ada, your amazing accomplishments and outstanding achievements, even miraculous fulfillments, YAHOWAH, YAHOWAH, the proper pronunciation of the name of Eloah, God as directed in his Torah. Teaching regarding his higher existence in our shalom, restoration, and, also, in addition to, your trustworthiness, Imuna Ada, your honesty and dependability, your steadfast commitment to the truth, from, Imun, the enduring truth and Haman, to support, confirm, and uphold that which is trustworthy and reliable, verifiable and confirming that which is correct and accurate, in the community, Kahal, within the gathering and assembly, of the set-apart, Kodesh. The separated and dedicated with essential divine qualities and status. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 5. By contrast, KY, truthfully, who, in the skies of the material realm, Hashachak, among the stars in the heavens, can be equated, Barak, can be put in the same position or compared, to, YAHOWAH, YAHOWAH. Who is similar to or thinks like, Dama, who resembles, YAHOWAH, YAHOWAH, among the sons of the Almighty, Ben Hel. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 6. God, El, is inspiring and awesome, Eratz, he is a well-regarded and awe-inspiring, exceedingly productive and accomplished, in the council, Sod, within the intimate fellowship where there is a foundation of trust, discretion, a conclave guided by proper instruction and grounded in mutual reliance, of the set-apart ones, Kadoshim, of those who are separated and exalted, tremendously great while inspiring reverence and respect, Rab Wayar, beyond all those around him, Al-Kol Sabib. Above everyone surrounding him. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 7. YAHOWAH, YAHOWAH, the proper pronunciation of the name of Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching, God, Elohim, of the vast array of spiritual implements, Saba, of the heavenly messengers, who and what, encouraging the listener to ponder and evaluate if anything, is comparable to your, Kamo Ada, can be considered similar to your, awesome power and extraordinary gifts, Chazan, strength, value, and treasure, addressing God's capability and what he has to offer, from Chasen, to be treasured and to offer value, which are all around you, Sabib Ada, YAHOWAH, YAHOWAH, including, your unwavering commitment to the truth, Imuna Ada, your honesty and dependability, your reliability and trustworthiness, from, Imun, the enduring truth and Haman, to support, confirm, and uphold that which is trustworthy and reliable, verifiable and confirming that which is correct. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 8. In a world replete with gods by all manner of names and depictions, there is only one actual God and his name is YAHOWAH. And unlike the disingenuous men who have conceived the impostors, YAHOWAH is trustworthy and reliable. He is also communicative in telling us what to avoid. You have conveyed vivid parables, Adam you have created easily remembered proverbs, which are word pictures, in regard to establishing one ruler, over the raging devastation and presumptive arrogance, Bagef, the undue and unwarranted status and moral failures along with the violent agitation associated with the surging, of the sea, Hayam, of the West, serving as a metaphor for Gowan, both nations and people. When its turbulent and surging waves rise up in deceit, Nasa/Nashak Galhu, when its stormy conditions and strong currents which are contaminated with biological excrement and defiling human dung are roused using clever trickery to craft delusions, you expose them and stop them, Ada Shabakhan, you assert what is factually accurate about them, stilling them. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 9. You humbled and crushed, Adadaka, you rejected and defeated the oppressor, shattering while making contrite the slander of, that which is comparable to the reprehensible and deadly nature of, Ka Hachalal, the profane and popular associations which as a result of one person pressing his agenda are overwhelming and fatal, from Hala, to defile, the pretentious pride and stormy arrogance of the boisterous afflictor and his false god, Rahab, the haughtiness and frenzied activity of the insolent and audacious one who presses his contentious and opposing plea, the defiant and confused musings associated with emboldened verbal calls for religious worship and submission, along with the senseless behavior and insubordinate taunts of the self-willed one who falsely claims divine authorization in concert with the monstrous sea and idolatry, with your empowered and fortified, Ada, by way of your mentally acute, physically strong, and psychologically prepared, Zeroah. Protective shepherd, sacrificial lamb, and one cultivating the harvests. Zeroah, strong arm who prevails because he is effective, fully resolved with the overall ability to accomplish the mission, the remarkably impactful individual of action who, as a leader and fighter is engaged as a shepherd among the sheep, who is fruitful in his ways, especially when sowing the seeds of truth while denoting and advancing the purpose of the sacrificial lamb. You isolate and separate, Pazer, you disperse in divergent directions, your adversaries, Yada, those who are opposed and hostile toward you, demonstrating animosity, enmity, and rancor with regard to you. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 10. YAHOWAH has been loquacious in his pointed and uncompromising rhetorical attacks against religion, and yet, the religious persist in claiming that God has endorsed that which he clearly despises. But in all of the charlatans and their counterfeits, the most despised is Paul, the man who authored, orchestrated, and/or starred in the preponderance of its texts, including the religion's initial 17 books, recognizing that his repulsive letters preceded everything else. The reason for this is quite simple: Christianity is responsible for the counterfeit that robbed Yahuwah's son of his acclaim and his people of a relationship with him. This is perhaps why one of our shared titles, Zeroah, was mentioned in this rebuke of religion. The 5 volumes of Twistianity not only provide the most comprehensive denunciation of the religion but also, at the same time, restore Dowd's place in our lives, his acclaim and accolades. This Zeroah is the only person directed by God to write books repudiating all 3 so-called Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Twistianity, Judaism, Babel, and Islam, goddamn religion, while also reintroducing Yahuwah's name and son to his people. The voice of the man who knew Yahuwah from the perspective of earth and heaven, which, of course, would be Dowd, revealed. The spiritual realm of the heavens, Shemaim, the abode of God in the 7th dimension, is yours, Yada, are for you and to approach you. The material realm, Eretz, the land, the world, Tebel, the earth, and all that is in it, Wamalo high, as well as the multitude of things that fill this space, is also yours, Yada, exist on your behalf, enabling us to approach you. You laid the foundation for them and created them, Yada Yasad you established and constituted them. Mizmor 89:11, the north, Saphoun, the place where treasure is taken and hidden, and, the south, Yaman, the right side, you have created them, Adabara, you conceived them and brought them into existence. Tabor the broken, Tabor, the shattered, crippled, and crushed, a high hill in Lower Galilee, location of the battle Deborah and Barak waged against the Canaanites and the location where, in 55 CE, 10,000 Yehudim were slaughtered by the Romans, and then countless more in 66 CE by Emperor Vespasian. Later Muslims and Crusaders fought there, from Tabar and Shabar, to be broken down and violently maimed, and, Chermon the banned and exterminated, Chermon, the accursed, mutilated, and destroyed, a mountain in the Golan along the Israel, Syrian, and Lebanese border, the site of intense battles in the Six-Day War, 1967, and Yom Kippur War, 1973, against Muslims, now serves as an Israeli observation post to monitor the Syrian and Lebanese jihadists. This word was incorporated into Arabic and used to denigrate, ban, and to curse Jews, from charam. That which is prohibited, shout for joy, ranan, loudly, happily, melodiously, and publicly call out, in your name, Ba Shem Ada. With your proper designation. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 12. Beside you, and on your behalf, Yada, to approach you and concerning you, by your side, the Zeroah, protective shepherd, sacrificial lamb, and one cultivating the harvests, Zeroah, the strong arm who shepherds the flock, the one who prevails because he is effective and capable, fully resolved with the overall ability to accomplish the mission, the impactful individual of action who, as a leader and fighter is engaged nurturing a fruitful ingathering of souls, with considerable power. Courage, character, and ability, I'm Gabora, with the will to fight and the capacity to perform, with what is required to accomplish what needs to be done, from feminine of Gibor, a mighty warrior, valiant soldier, and capable defender, a courageous hero worth noting, will be your strong hand, Azaz Yad Ada, is the means you will use to confidently prevail, applying the force required to firmly establish and boldly overpower, raised up high, Rome. Lifted up as an extension from the source. At your right side, Yaman Ada, as your right hand for having chosen to be right. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 13. Just as Yahuwah chose Dowd, he has chosen others. And some of the others, like myself, serve to reacquaint Yisrael with their God and foremost son. And while I know that this says that his Zeroah are powerful and courageous men of character and ability, most of what we achieve Yahuwah facilitates through us. Such was even the case with Dowd. And that is the reason that this next pronouncement could be addressing either God or his son, since one is a reflection of the other. Being correct and vindicating, tzedek, being right, honest, and fair, being accurate, just, and acquitting, regarding executing good judgment and justly resolving disputes, mishpat, along with adroitly pondering all of the questions required to make rational and moral decisions, a compound of to question and thus ponder and consider, and shapat, to decide, to be discriminating, and to be just. Executing good judgment, serve as the foundation, makon, are the basis and home, the very essence of y/your throne, kais, ada, of y/your authority and position of honor. A loving relationship and genuine mercy, chesed, loyalty and devotion, enduring favoritism and affection, generosity and kindness, and especially the benefits and sense of community germane to the covenant, along with a steadfast commitment to the truth, imuna, trustworthiness and honesty, being reliable and dependable, from immune, the enduring truth, and aman, to support, confirm, and uphold that which is trustworthy and reliable, verifiable and confirming that which is correct. Encounter those who enter y/your presence, kadampana ada, embrace those who come to meet y/you, and can be anticipated because they are front and center with y/you and naturally occur in y/your presence. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 14. Delighted to show the way because blessed, Ashri, happy to reveal the proper path to the relationship and treated favorably, from Asher, enjoying the benefits of the relationship by having been shown the steps to walk to get the most out of life, and any, me, representing the first word I translated in 2 Shamuel 7, are the people, or the family members, who are aware of and acknowledge Yada's role in, Yada, who are familiar and acquainted with, who learn about and make known, who comprehend and understand what Yada does on, Towrah, trumpets, the 5th of 7 YYV3C4, the final gleaning of Yisrael, the day of the Zeroah's sacrifice as the red heifer to prepare the surviving remnant for Dowd's return, a time to expose corruptions while sharing the truth, who walk, halak, who choose as a way of living to continually travel about, exploring and moving, peel imperfect pedagogic, with the light into your presence, ba, or pana ada. Along with this enlightenment into your shining and brilliant appearance. YAHOWAH, YAHOWAH. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 15. When it comes to speaking for God, about his son, and to his people, nothing matters more than being tzedek right. This is particularly relevant when it comes to the mishpat because this process transpires through the micro-EY which serve as the means to resolve the disputes which separate humankind from God. These realizations are so foundational, and Dowd's contribution so instrumental that they underpin Dowd's position of honor and authority. By pursuing this advice, we find Yahuwah's mercy and enter his presence. This pronouncement and realization is more than enough to justify my appraisal of this song, calling it the most important ever written, but it's what follows that should garner everyone's undivided attention. Not only was Asher the first word I translated for Yada Yahowah, as well as the first word Dowd wrote in his first psalm, it also leads to Yada, and to the role that becoming aware and knowing plays in our approach to God. Yada is also the verb preceding Yahuwah's name, explaining the purpose of Yada Yahowah, including all of the books presented under Yahuwah's brand. Additionally, Asher plays a pivotal role in properly assessing the implications of Yahuwah's declaration regarding Dowd, his son and our king, in Shamuel/2 Samuel 7, which is the prophetic counterpart to the 89th Mizmor. In Yahuwah's parlance, and from the perspective of bringing a tzaddik accurate mishpat analysis of the Makon foundational basis of Dowd's Kai's throne and position of honor, while revealing the immuna truth regarding God's chesed love for those who kadam pana seek to enter his presence, Yada the one who knows has consistently striven to Asher show the way to get the most out of the relationship. Having devoted almost every productive hour of my life these past 23 years since I first met Yahuwah, on Towrah in 2001, to sharing what I was learning about God, I only recently discovered what was in store for me, and for you, on Towrah. Turns out, Towrah is more than the name suggests, a time to call out a warning to those who are lost while heralding the good news of a way back home. The fulfillment of Yom Towrah is much more than a final lacket gleaning of olives, representing Yisraelites. And yet, even this is Yada's responsibility because, as the final Zeroah, he is God's chosen implement to cultivate this ingathering. He, coordinating with the Ruach Kodesh, will arrange after sunset at the beginning of the Shabat on Friday evening, September 23, 2033/6000 Yah stream of light from earth to heaven transporting all of the most recent additions to the covenant family. But that is not the half of it because this same night Yada will be culling the olives, determining which are to be gleaned and which will remain as a mortal remnant deliberately left behind for the Kippurim homecoming, now just 10 days away. However, since the determining factor on who is included in the eternal ingathering and who remains mortal is acceptance of the conditions of the berith and attendance at the Moedim, those left behind will all be inadequately prepared to survive Yahuwah's arrival. So, to resolve this problem and cleanse the mortal remnant of their religious and political guilt, Yahuwah has arranged for Yada to offer his life in exchange for theirs, so that they might live to witness the homecoming. This sacrifice, known as the red heifer, is presented initially in the 19th chapter of Bamidbar/Numbers in the Torah. Its prophetic implications are explained by Yeshaya, Zechariah, and Malachi. It all comes down to Yada, as the final Zeroah, the man from Edom, striding to the south end of the Temple Mount at sunrise on the continuing Shabat of Yom Towrah, now September 24, 2033, when, after summoning Satan, Yada will release his empowering Ruach and protective Malachi. My Basar body, serving as a witness, will be bludgeoned to death as a public spectacle. But that is when the beauty and compassion of this transformational event begins. Elia, reenacting what he did 2 millennia 888 years earlier to expose and condemn the political and religious leaders of Yisrael, will follow the Torah's instructions, retrieving my body and placing it near the entrance to the tent of the restoring witness and eternal testimony, now standing where the first temple once stood. He will collect 2 samples of my blood and use the first to anoint the approach to Yahuwah's covenant home. He will bring to my tortured carcass planks of cedar, hyssop, and a scarlet grub, at which time, Yahuwah will unleash a torrent of water from under the temple mount and then ignite the pyre. And as the towering flames reach up to the heavens and the ashen waters cascade off of the Temple Mount, the surviving mortal remnant of Yisrael will come clean, their guilt expunged, so that they can participate in the family reunion. In 10 days, Yahuwah will return with the Messiah, Dowd, as foretold in Zechariah. And since none of this would have occurred without Yahuwah choosing to work with Yada, teaching, inspiring, and otherwise equipping and emboldening him, we find Asher Yada Towrah boldly inserted into Dowd's song. My story is now integrated into his because, without mine, his remains largely unknown and, therefore, incomplete. We are, therefore, Asher delighted to show the way to the benefits of the relationship for the people who Yada are now acquainted with and acknowledge Yada's role on Towrah, and who are now able to halak walk ba or pana ada Yahowah in the presence of your light, Yahuwah. And so let it be known that tzedakah vindication will come to those who gyl celebrate Yahuwah's name. In your name, ba shem ada, they rejoice, gyl, they celebrate these favorable circumstances, expressing their enthusiasm, kal imperfect pedagogic, every day, kol hayam, all the time. and Wah, in your justice and vindication, by being right, Ba Tzedakah Ada, in you being correct, fair, and just, rightfully acquitting, they are lifted on high, Rum, they rise, going to a higher elevation. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 16. Having introduced us to teruah trumpets moments ago, we find God approving the brilliantly illuminating horns we will raise for the occasion. This is an allusion to the ram Yahowah supplied to affirm the covenant 80 Yahweh prior to this date. Yahowah is, therefore, speaking of his son, Dowd, as the ram who fulfilled Passover. Further, the instrument used to sound the alarm and signal the good news concerning teruah is a trumpet comprised of a ram's horn. It is called a shofar. Indeed, because the adornment, tiferet, the ornamentation, and beautiful appearance, comprising the splendor and divine attributes of their empowerment and fortification, Azhem, is yours, Ada. By your acceptance and approval, Ba Ratzon Ada, for your pleasure and by you having chosen to favorably accept, our brilliantly illuminating horn, Karen and Aknu, our illumination and source of light, our appearance as light and our trumpet, is lifted up, Rum, is raised and elevated as an extension from the source. Mizmor 89:17. The fortifying and empowering adornment which presents the wearer as acceptable and approved, will have been cleansed and prepared in the ashen waters now emerging from under the red heifer and flowing off of the Temple Mount. For, our deliverance and protection, Magan and Aknu, our defense and shield, are from, La, pertain to, Yahowah. Accordingly, Wallah, so therefore, the Kadosh set apart one, Kadosh, the one who is distinct and separate from the rest, the one who is prepared and dedicated, of Yisrael, of individuals who engage and endure with God, is our Melech king, Melech and Aknu, is our leader, our royal ruler, our authorized authority, and our sovereign. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 18. Dowd is the Kadosh set apart one who will serve as the Melech king of Yisrael individuals who engage and endure with God. Teruah is focused on announcing his return as king and then preparing a remnant of Yisraelites for his homecoming. This has not been hidden, but available for us to know for 3,000 years. Therefore, meanwhile then, in relation to this, and logically, you spoke, Dabur, you communicated with words, promising and declaring, in a revelation, Ba Chazon, prophetically in a manner such that the intelligent would perceive by visually conveying an agreement, to, La, on behalf of, your Bakowr chosen and tested ones, Bahar, the one selected, tried, and examined, preferred and found acceptable, from 4 QPs verses, Chasidi, faithful and devoted ones in the Masoretic text. Saying, Amar, expressing and claiming, from 4 QPs, I have equated and bestowed, Shawah, I have likened and offered, assistance, supplying what is needed, Ezer, help and aid, enabling, on behalf of, Al, for and upon, the Gibor most courageous and capable man, Gibor, the mightiest of men, the strong and effective fighter, the valiant and brave warrior, the one who battles, from Gabor. To prevail, to be powerful, mighty, and strong, to prove one's valor, and to be a champion for a virtuous cause. I have raised up and exalted, Rum, I have elevated and lifted on high, taking action to empower, the Bahar chosen one, Bahar, the one selected, tried, and tested, examined and found acceptable, from, Min, out of, the people, Am, the family, Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 19. Yahowah has chosen his co-workers, whether they be Mashyach or Zeroah, Ben or Melech, Choder or Tzemach, even Nabi or Ed. And while they share many common traits, these Bakowr chosen ones are universally Gibor capable and courageous characters, but none more so than Dowd. Yahowah always Ezer provided what was needed to help them accomplish the mission. While religious and political tyrants prefer the meek because they are readily subjugated, Yahowah prefers Gibor, the mightiest of men. We either fight for what is right, or he will find another who will. This continues to be in Yahowah's voice as God speaks lovingly about his favorite and firstborn son and anointed Messiah. I discovered and then made known, Matzah, I located, found, revealed, exposed, encountered, and experienced, then sought to reap the benefit by inspiring, Dowd, the beloved, from Dowd, the one who is loved and who loves in return, my Ebed co-worker, Ebed Eni, my authorized agent who works on my behalf, from Abad, to work. Out of, Min, from, 1 QPs 4, Shemen Kodesh Eni my set-apart oil, Shemen Kodesh Eni, my separating, devoting, and preparing olive oil I have dedicated him to service, I have Mashyach anointed him, Mashyach who, I have applied the oil, dedicating him to my purpose, the actionable basis of and thus the process of becoming the Mashyach Messiah, Mizmor 89:20, so that, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, to reveal the path to walk to get the most out of life, my hand, Yad Eni, my influence and ability to act, will be established and steadfast, Kun, will be authenticated and sustained, made ready and prepared, be unwavering and persistent, with you, I'm Ada, in association with you, for QPs changes him to you, Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 21 in part. By revealing that he found Dowd, Yahowah is not only affirming that this was his choice among all men, but he is also revealing his preference for this man's attitude, aptitude, and ability. This means that Yahowah is pleased when we strive to be like Dowd. It also means that God retains the prerogative to select those he invites into his presence and family. By stating that he made Dowd known to us, Yahowah is taking credit for the accounts of his life and copies of his psalms that have been made available for us to read 3,000 years after they were chronicled and composed. No other 11th century BCE life is as contemporaneously or voluminously documented. Therefore, those who do not know why his life matters should be asking themselves why this is so. Why did God intervene in human affairs in this way, at this time, in this place, and for this man? We find more written about and by Dowd than we can process in a lifetime, preserved in the original language, verified and proven credible through prophecy, conscientiously maintained, and even extant among the Dead Sea Scrolls, parchments sealed in ceramics found less than 20 miles from where they were first composed. By reaffirming that Dowd exists as his Ebed co-worker, God is giving us the opportunity to understand what he values and wants to accomplish. All we have to do is examine his lives and consider his lyrics, and we can reap the benefits. And this begins by acknowledging that father and son work together to provide the covenant's benefits by fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bakowr. Following Dowd's example, we know that Yahowah wants us to call him by name and then relate to him as we would a loving father. He wants us to listen to and learn from him, to share what we have come to know, to become part of his family, to appreciate what he values, and to oppose what he disdains, fighting to protect his people while striving to be right. God is attracted to intellect and character, passion and reliability, to those who are not afraid to tell the truth, even when it isn't popular. Further, by referring to Dowd as the one who works on my behalf, Yahowah is reaffirming his predilection to accomplish what needs to be done with us and through us rather than alone. This remarkable fact reinforces his commitment to empower and enrich his children by being personally involved in our lives. It is why I've been afforded this opportunity to write these books to call God's people home. On this occasion, Yahowah is announcing that he did something remarkable for Dowd that he has not done for anyone else. Out of my set-apart oil, I have anointed him. Should this be the oil of enlightenment, longevity, healing, protection, nourishment, or preparation for service, may you and I benefit from future allocations of it. And may we capitalize upon it with all of the passion and courage Dowd manifested. That said, the Shemen Kodesh Eni my set-apart anointing oil isn't describing the application of olive oil on Dowd, although this occurred at Yahowah's direction 3 times. It actually speaks of Dowd being immersed in the Ruach Kodesh set-apart spirit when he was initially introduced by Yahowah as his Mashyach anointed Messiah at 8 years of age. In conjunction with God explaining that his criteria for determining who he prefers differs markedly from mankind's, Yahowah explained the process of anointing Dowd in conjunction with being immersed in the Ruach, our spiritual mother, causing Dowd to be God's son. There is one thing we should never do, and that is ignore what God has done, or worse, try to take it from this man and give it to another. Yahowah chose to personally anoint Dowd his Mashyach Messiah. It was God's decision, and we should respect it, appreciate it, accept and embrace it, capitalizing upon it by reading his 119th Mizmor, his magnum opus on how to properly observe Yahowah's Torah teaching on these matters. Beyond the fact that this decision was Yahowah's, and without him, we don't even exist, he didn't actually do this for Dowd's benefit but, instead, for ours. By preparing the Messiah to serve in this way, God's influence in our lives was established and authenticated, becoming as steadfast and unwavering as the lyrics of this and every Mizmor affirm. The Torah is the map, and Dowd is the guide. We have long since come to realize that Yahowah chose a shepherd to serve as his Zeroath sacrificial lamb. He would protect God's flock while laying down his life to save his sheep. It is the greatest gift ever offered. Those who capitalize upon what father and son have accomplished live forever, are perfected and then are adopted into God's covenant family. In addition, even more, Eni Zeroah, my protective shepherd, strong arm, and sacrificial lamb, Zeroah Eni, my productive ram who shepherds the flock, who prevails because he is effective and strong, fully resolved with the overall ability to accomplish the mission, my remarkably important and impactful individual of action who, as a leader and fighter, is engaged to guide my sheep, who is fruitful in his ways, especially when sowing the seeds for the harvests while denoting and advancing the purpose of the harvests, will empower and embolden you, strengthening you, while enabling your growth, Amitz Ada, will help you grow, elevating your status, reinforcing and establishing you with the determination to persist and be courageous, for QPs corrects him to you. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 21. God could not have made this any more obvious. There is no need to interpret the text, extrapolate a conclusion, or speculate on the meaning. The Bahar chosen one from among the people, the anointed Mashyach Messiah, the Son of God, the man Yahowah raised and exalted to work with him, the very hand of God and his Zeroah, protective shepherd and sacrificial lamb, has a name, Dowd. For those willing to listen and engage, his lives and lyrics will, Amitz Ada, help you grow, empowering and emboldening you. For God's sake and yours, if you haven't already done so, it's well past time that the world accepts Dowd's special place with God. If anyone holds the keys to heaven, it is this man. It is his home and his family as well as his father's, and it is his throne and his kingdom which will exist therein, forevermore. He opened the door and made it possible for us to enter. His are the greatest lives ever lived and the greatest gifts ever given. But never lose sight of the fact that there are 3 Zeroah, beginning with Moses and concluding with Yada. Moses served as the strong arm of God and protective shepherd in emancipating the Yisraelites from slavery. Dowd was the sacrificial lamb fulfilling Pesach. And Yada is the Zeroah, cultivating the Shabuah and Towrah harvests. I share this now because there may be a shift from one Zeroah to the next as we press forward. And in this regard, as we continue to sing Dowd's song, there is a slightly different order of things found within the Qumran parchments as opposed to the Masoretic text. Psalm 89 verse 25 follows Mizmor 89:21 in the DSS. Further, his hand becomes my hand and my right side in 4 QPs. Therefore, after affirming that Dowd is the Zeroah sacrificial lamb, God shares a picture with us that I did not fully appreciate until this moment. As such, I will place, I will appoint, direct, set, and establish, my hand, Yad Eni, my influence, from 4 QPs whereas the MT read his hand, into, BA, within and over, the sea, Ha-Yam, the oceans, a metaphor for Gowan, and my right side, Yam and Eni, my right hand, adjacent to flowing waters, Wa-Ba Ha-Nahar, over the rivers and among the places water flows. Mizmor/Psalm 89:22-25 reposition based on the Dead Sea Scrolls. The flowing waters that matter at this time are those emerging from inside Moriah and beneath the sacrificial offering of the red heifer. For this to be on God's right side, he will be facing south, overlooking the ridgeline of Zion and the city of Dowd. It would then be his left hand over the Dead Sea, bringing it back to life as it fills with the cleansing and fresh waters cascading off of the Temple Mount. Recognizing that Yahowah has already disclosed that Dowd is the Yad, hand, of God, the Almighty's positioning is temporary. At this very moment, his son's Bakowr herald, this man from Edom who has served as the red heifer to prepare his people, is vital to the proceedings. So Yahowah has his hand over my sacrificial offering while looking toward his son, knowing how this will prepare Yisrael for the reign of their king. But more than this, through the towering flames and cleansing waters, the adversary will be singed and then dissolved like the wicked witch of Oz. There will be no denying Dowd, now the king of kings. Satan will have met his match. The adversary, Oyeb, the hostile opposition, the enemy, the one with animosity, enmity, and rancor, masculine singular, will not outwit or nullify him, Shoah, Ba who will not negate his value or annul his position or purpose. And, Wah, the son of evil, Ben, Allah, the awful child of wickedness, the prodigy of malice and injustice, the seed of the one who is wrong, harmful, and damaging, from Abel, transliterated evil in the Masoretic text, the evil one, who by being wrong deviates from the truth by perverting, twisting, and corrupting that which is correct, masculine singular, will not deny him or denigrate him because he will have no answer for him, lo, Anahu, he will not silence him or stop him, will not negate his answers or nullify his responsive declarations, Peel imperfect energic none, the son of evil will not be allowed to continue his assault on Dowd. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 22. Shoah wasn't chosen by happenstance, nor was Allah. Shoah is used in the third statement Yahowah etched in stone to say that he would not forgive anyone who sought to nullify or negate the value of his name. He's not going to allow Satan to denigrate or silence Dowd either. This is an important lesson because it means that God is as protective of his name and reputation as he is of his sons. An attack on one is an assault on the other. To degrade the son by failing to acknowledge what he has sacrificed to save Yisrael or to replace him with a worthless counterfeit, as is the case with Judaism and Christianity, is to garner his father's wrath. As for Allah, it was used in Habakkuk 2 verse 12 to reveal that Shaul Paul, the plague of death, would build an evil edifice. Therefore, Yahowah is tying each of these clues together for us so that we might understand Satan's desire to degrade Yahowah's chosen. God does not want us fooled into denying or trivializing the Zerah or Mashyach. While the adversary, as Satan, is singular, as is his prodigy, the son of evil, when working together as they did to conceive Christianity, they become Zari, adversarial foes. Beyond this, to the best of my knowledge, there are only three prominent individuals who claim to speak for God while admitting to being demon-possessed: the people's choice, King Shaul Saul, the wannabe apostle and false prophet, Shaul Paul, and the self-acclaimed messenger of God, Muhammad. However, since the plague of death was explicitly named Shaul in Habakkuk, it doesn't take a genius to ascertain which of these nefarious fellows earned the title, son of evil. More to the point, Shaul's name will soon appear within this Mizmor, eliminating any doubt as to the identity of the wicked child. May we applaud Yah. The title is fitting. And it is warranted because Christianity is nothing more than a crude counterfeit of the actual Messiah and Son of God. Standing up for the one who stood with him, Yah reveals. And so, Wah, I will pulverize and crush, cat hath, I will defeat, beat down, shatter, and break, then vanquish, throwing away and incarcerating under extremely unfavorable circumstances after thoroughly rebuking, Cal perfect, his foes, especially those who seek to constrain and restrict him, Zari who, his adversaries who openly display their hostility and opposition, creating an unfavorable situation, by diminishing his calling and purpose. Then, Wah, out of his presence, Min Panahu, away from and on account of, even before his appearance, I will plague, Nagaf, I will afflict with a deadly pandemic disease, smiting and inflicting with that which is destructive, harmful, and injurious, those who shun him by attempting to decrease his status, saying, who, those who are openly hostile in their derision and who so intensely dislike him they refuse to associate with him, failing to appreciate what his love represents, hating him. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 23. Dowd's accomplishments and accolades have been suppressed by Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and the scholastic pundits of progressive academia, so there is going to be plenty of payback, with many illusions shattered. Therefore, Wah, my steadfast commitment to the truth, Imuna Eni, my trustworthiness and unrelenting honesty, the realization that I am reliable and dependable, unchanging and without contradiction, from Immun, my enduring truth and Haman, my support and willingness to confirm and uphold that which is trustworthy, consistent, and verifiable and my continuing commitment to confirm that which is correct and accurate, and, Wah, my unwavering love, determined devotion, and enduring favoritism and ongoing affection, Chisat Eni, my commitment to a loving relationship, to generosity and kindness, in addition to the continuation of my merciful benefits, are with him, I'm who, mark my association with him and are implied in my relationship with him. In my name, Wa-Ba Shem Eni, in my personal and proper designation, his light will radiate and enlighten and his brilliant horn, Karen who, his glowing appearance on his summit and his ability to enlighten will be brilliant, even his ram's horn crown, symbolic of his status and strength, and of his role as the protective ram among the sheep during Towrah will be prominent, as will be his trumpet for signaling which emits light, will be lifted up, raised on high, and exalted, will arise and act, Cal imperfect. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 24. Since Yahowah's steadfast commitment and enduring favoritism are eternally directed at Dowd, there is no place for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, or progressive politics around Yahowah. These belief systems which opine otherwise must go for Dowd to reign supreme. Dowd David is like YAHOWAH in this way. Both share an unwavering commitment to the truth. They are both loving. By looking at one, we see the other. Seen together, they encapsulate the Torah and emulate the covenant. Their relationship has made it possible for us to understand, and thereby experience, YAHOWAH's enduring love and mercy. As we know, YAHOWAH told Abraham that he would provide the lamb. And so, when Abraham looked, he saw the lambs, Karen, horns of radiant light, on the summit of Moriah. And now, based on this statement, it is apparent that YAHOWAH was symbolically portraying what he would accomplish with Dowd 2,000 years later on Moriah. After all, Dowd is not only the exemplar of the Berith, as the Zeroath sacrificial lamb who scribed his experience during Chag Matzah in first person, he is the fulfillment of Pesach, Matzah, and Bakowr, having done so at this same place as father and son. He, himself, will call out to me and welcome me, announcing, Hu, Kara Eni, he will genuinely invite me into his life, actually reading and reciting to me, continually proclaiming unto me, Kal imperfect, you are my father, of Eni Ada. Mizmor 89:26. I, Eni, also, Av, likewise and in relation, from 4 QPs, will appoint and make him, Nathan who, will offer and present him, bestowing him as a gift, causing him by way of this relationship to be, Kal imperfect, Bakowr Eni my firstborn, Bakowr Eni, my firstborn son, serving as the basis of Bakowrim, the third of 7 Microi, the Elion highest and uppermost, Elion, the most exalted in status, rank, and position, the supreme, a title so divine in nature, it is almost always reserved for God, himself, meaning, Almighty God, from Allah, to ascend above, in comparison to the kings and rulers, Lamelikim, government leaders, of the earth, Eretz, of the material realm and of the land. Mizmor 89:27. For all eternity, La Aulam, forever, from antiquity and into the future without end, I will keep watch over him, paying very close attention to him, Shamar Lahu, I will focus upon him, observing all there is to know about him, closely and carefully considering him, paying attention to him and guarding him. My unwavering love, unrelenting devotion, enduring affection, and genuine favoritism, Chisat Eni, my commitment to a loving relationship, to generosity and kindness, as well as my compassion and mercy, in addition to my family-oriented covenant, Wa Berith Eni, as well as my binding oath and pledge to build a home and raise my family, from Baith, family and home and Bana, to build a home to raise children, are truthfully presented and reliably established, verifiable and enduring through him, Aman Lahu, are confirmed and credible, upheld and everlasting, especially real for him and through him. Mizmor/lyrics to sing Psalm 89 verse 28. Second only to the introductory proclamations YAHOWAH made at the inception of Dowd's song, the last 3 pronouncements are as important as anything found in the Torah and prophets. YAHOWAH's assessment of his relationship with Dowd is the reason that we turn to the 89th Mizmor at this time. In these words, we find Dowd announcing and YAHOWAH affirming that they are father and son. Just as there is no one else that YAHOWAH personally anointed, Dowd stands alone as the firstborn and most acclaimed son of God. Further, YAHOWAH is offering his son to us as a gift. And this is insightful because it helps us appreciate the identity of the child who was born and the son who is given, in Yashayah/Isaiah 9 verse 6. When Dowd refers to YAHOWAH as his father and YAHOWAH responds by acknowledging that he perceives Dowd to be his son, they are describing the nature of their relationship and the way they interact with one another. They are not describing a biological connection but, instead, something far more profound. In a father/son relationship, the parent carries most of the responsibility and undertakes the preponderance of the work. Fathers mentor sons, set an example for them to follow, and teach and guide them. Parents provide nourishment and shelter, apparel and protection for their children. The child also bears some responsibility. They must learn and accept the house rules and contribute to the family in some way once they are able. It's even better when sons respect their father and are appreciative, and it's best when they are able to advance the family business. And in this regard, Dowd was the perfect son. These are among the reasons Dowd earned the distinction of being called YAHOWAH's Bakowr firstborn. With this honor came the right to wear his father's crown and share his throne. He would also inherit the birthright of a royal firstborn. But there was a great deal of mutuality in their relationship. With the Microi existing to advance the rewards of the covenant, by fulfilling Pesach and Matzah, Dowd became the best-suited individual to exemplify the benefits of Bakowr and firstborn children. The most illuminating term in this pronouncement is Elion. When it is used throughout the Torah, it is addressing Almighty God. So, if we are to trust the Torah's definition, as is well advised, then YAHOWAH is presenting his son as God. While this would normally be shocking, it actually isn't in this context. By design, sons are supposed to grow up and become like their fathers. And when it comes to this family, the benefits of the covenant, which Dowd helped provide by fulfilling the Microi, are specifically designed to make us more like God, enriching, empowering, and enlightening us. Moreover, as we transition from the material to the spiritual realm, we grow exponentially in dimensions, going from 3 to 7, which is an infinite increase 4 times over. Also, as we approach the conclusion of this Mizmor, YAHOWAH will tell us that Dowd will become as brilliant as the sun in his presence, with myself as the moon forever reflecting his brilliance. So, based upon all of this, we would be well served to read Elion as Almighty God. And so as not to risk shortchanging God's son, then he is the Elion highest and uppermost. This means that it is long past time to silence the foolish religious rhetoric praising the likes of Jesus, Peter, Paul, Akiba, Muhammad, Allah, or Maimonides. They are reprehensible scum. Dowd's status with God is as God, and that is never going to change. We have YAHOWAH's word on it. He will continue to focus on his son throughout eternity, as will those blessed to be in his presence. YAHOWAH's statement speaks volumes. He is declaring for all of us to read that his love, affection, and mercy are best demonstrated and understood when we consider his relationship with Dowd. Further, the covenant is most accurately presented, affirmed, fulfilled, and verified when we examine Dowd's participation via his lives and lyrics. In this profound pronouncement spoken by the Creator about the man he deems to be the best among us, it all begins with Kara. Father and Son have invited us into the covenant family. We have been called out of this world so that we can be welcomed in heaven. By reading and reciting the Word of God, we find Father and Son summoning us to their side. When we capitalize on what Father and Son have done through the micro-EY to deliver the benefits of the covenant, we grow exponentially. Dowd has shown us the way and made it possible for us to follow him. To be counted among God's children, we are advised to do as our exemplar has done, boldly stating to YAHOWAH, "You are my Father." And while there will be only one Bakowr firstborn son, one Elion highest and uppermost, and only one Melech Eretz king of the earth, we can all accept the conditions of the Berith and attend the micro-EY and become children in God's family. Without question, YAHOWAH will remain attuned to Dowd, even throughout eternity, because he loves him as a father loves a son. God said, "Chiset eni wa berith eni amon lahu, my unwavering love, unrelenting devotion, and enduring mercy are truthfully presented and will reliably endure with him as part of my covenant family." Even when they act up, parents seldom tire of their children. And when children grow up to devote themselves to the betterment of the family, when they go about their father's business, every moment is a cause for celebration. This is not only why we have children, it is why we exist. And God's relationship with his firstborn was exemplary. According to God, Dowd is the most interesting man in the world. We devalue him and Yah's relationship with him at our peril. By contrast, if we do as YAHOWAH does, and, Shamar, closely examine and carefully consider Dowd's every word and deed, we will follow him to heaven. Dowd's most distinguishing and relevant title, Son of God, as affirmed here and elsewhere, is the one rabbis most aggressively deny, creating yet another obstacle precluding Yehudim from coming home. Christians counterfeit it and Allah claims that he has no interest in a son, preferring slaves willing to kill for him. And speaking of titles, Dowd's second most important designation isn't Messiah or King but, instead, Zeroah, sacrificial lamb. This descriptive moniker is based upon the verb zera, which speaks of sowing seeds which take root and grow, producing a productive harvest when properly cultivated. In Dowd's case, he fulfilled Bakowr firstborn children, which is the first of the 3 micro-EY ingatherings. But beyond this, by also fulfilling Pesach and Matzah, he made the Shabuah harvest of standing grain and Towrah gleaning of olives possible. And through each, the covenant's children are born into God's family and brought home. And that is why we read, "And I will establish, Wasim, appoint and preserve, his seed, that which he sows, and the offspring he produces, Zerah, who, his posterity and descendants as well as what is yielded from the seeds he plants and cultivates for the harvest, as an eternal witness forever, La ed ad, as everlasting and enduring testimony and as evidence which serves as proof. And, Wa, his throne, Kais, who, his position and seat of honor, will be equated to the days of heaven, Kayam Shemaim, will be as time in the spiritual realm, which is everlasting." Mizmor/lyrics to sing Psalm 89 verse 29. Should anyone have misconstrued YAHOWAH's promise to Dowd in 2 Samuel 7 regarding his son's return as king, believing that God was speaking of mythical Jesus, but somehow forgot the counterfeit's name, this resolves that question. It also negates the legitimacy of Paul's single-seed theory upon which Christian replacement philology was based. Not only will many covenant members benefit from the 3 harvests, but the Zerah pertain to Dowd rather than the replacement player. The covenant's children are the beneficiaries of what Dowd has sown. And as such, we are his offspring, the legacy of the Katzir he has facilitated. Through the Son, the Father has produced a family. As a result, his throne and his offspring shall endure forever, as replete with time as are the days of heaven. In this regard, the reason that the Yom Shemaim are different from days are here on earth is because once our souls are free of the hindrance of physical bodies, we become more like light. No longer stuck in the ordinary flow of time, we will be liberated in the 4th dimension. We are reminded that the spiritual abode of God has a seat of honor, one with Dowd's name written upon it. Therefore, it's not just throughout the millennial kingdom that we should expect to see Dowd shepherd his flock, but throughout eternity in heaven as well. If we want to be among those with him, there are choices to be made, prior alliances to be broken and new ones to be established. Dowd, having studied YAHOWAH's narrative with Abraham, understood the conditions of the covenant and he chose wisely. Said another way, the Zeroah devoted the time to closely examine and carefully consider YAHOWAH's Torah. His 119th Mizmor/Psalm is evidence of this. In its 22:8 statement refrains, each representing one of the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, Dowd explained how to properly observe the Torah. As a result, the 119th Psalm remains one of the crowning achievements of his initial life. Unfortunately, those misled by the likes of Paul, Akiba, and Muhammad will face the consequences of having chosen poorly and, in particular, Yehudim, the direct descendants of Dowd. However, if, and yet on the contrary in condition, should the situation be that, his sons, Beni who, his children, continue to forsake, ignore, or reject, Azab, they habitually neglect or abandon, depart from and disavow, Kal imperfect, my Torah teaching and guidance, Torah any, my source of instruction and direction, and, Wa, if they make a habit of failing to walk, Wa lo, halak, and do not journey, conducting their lives, Kal imperfect, according to my means to justly resolve disputes, ba mishpat any, within the parameters I've set to execute good judgment and to be discerning, a compound of ma, to ponder the implications of and shapat, making good decisions and being just, Mizmor 89:30, if, on the condition that they perpetually view my clearly communicated prescriptions for living with contempt, chukka any chalal, profaning and desecrating my conditions, dishonoring what I've enacted and constituted, Kal imperfect, and further, wa. If they consistently fail to observe the instructive terms of the relationship, Mitzvah, any lo, shamar, they fail to closely examine and carefully consider the requirements of the covenant, Kal imperfect, Mizmor 89:31, then, I will hold them accountable, Packet, I will consider all of these things and attend to them, with the measure, Shebat, with the rod and scepter, of their religious rebellion and popular political revolt, Pesha, Hem, of their defiance and contrarian nature. The consequence of their deviation from the way and of their wrongdoing, A1 Hem, their perversity and depravity, will be a pestilence which causes widespread death, Ba Niga, will be a sudden blow, physically infecting them such that they are plagued and die from the spread of the fungus. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 32. According to God, and he's in the best position to know, souls who neglect his Torah, die. The consequence of ignoring Yah's teaching is to endure the plague of death. To reject God's guidance is to be held accountable. There is no substitute for it and no getting around it. It's the Torah or nothing, literally. YAHOWAH's Torah guidance provides the means to resolve disputes, specifically through Passover and unyeasted bread. Within it, we find Yah's clearly communicated prescriptions for living through Bakowr, Shabat, and Towrah. Those who capitalize upon the harvests return to celebrate Kippurim and enjoy Sukkah, reconciled and at home. To deviate from YAHOWAH's Torah teaching through religious rebellion has devastating consequences, causing widespread death and destruction. Consider the fate of Jews since they last valued the Berith relationship over Judaism or prioritized YAHOWAH's Torah over the rabbinical Talmud. YAHOWAH chose Yisrael 4,000 years ago, but they have not reciprocated. This must and will change, and soon. Therefore, undoing this damage is the purpose of the Yada Yahowah series and all of the books bearing the YAHOWAH brand. As a result of statements like this, we can be assured that Paul's diatribe against the Torah in the New Testament wasn't worth the ink required to write it. Annulling the Torah, forsaking, ignoring, and rejecting YAHOWAH's teaching and guidance is deadly. There is no cure, no salvation, for those who fail to observe and appreciate God's means to resolve disputes, or who hold his clearly communicated prescriptions for living in contempt. YAHOWAH's mercy is afforded to the thousands among billions who embrace the instructive terms of his relationship agreement. It's our choice, but we will live or die as a result of it. Also deadly, anyone who would ignore or purloin what was attributed to Dowd to create a religious counterfeit is plagued. They will either change their minds or they are out of their minds. Accordingly, my unwavering love, enduring devotion, unmitigated favoritism, affection, and generosity, Chesed Eni, my commitment to a loving relationship, to mercy and kindness, I will never remove from him or withdraw from being with him, lo, parar min, him who, I will not revoke, disassociate, or annul an association with him, hyphal imperfect, because I will never communicate something which is not accurate nor will I ever contradict, lo, shakar, I will not lie, deal falsely, deceive, or mislead, and thus never betray who I am, with regard to, peel imperfect, my steadfast commitment to the truth, ba, immuna eni, with regard to my trustworthiness and honesty, the fact that I am reliable and dependable, from, immun, my enduring truth and human, my support and willingness to confirm and uphold that which is trustworthy, reliable, and verifiable and my continuing commitment to confirm that which is correct and accurate. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 33. I will never dishonor or betray, nor will I poke holes in, lo, chalal, I will never defile by treating as if it were common, and thus not uniquely special, holding in contempt, sullying or desecrating, and I will never perforate, creating loopholes which violate the nature and use of, beareth any my covenant family, beareth any, my family, my home, and my relationship agreement, nor will I ever alter, disguise, or change, lo shana, and I will never rearrange, modify, adjust, or duplicate, peel imperfect, that which has gone forth from, motza, that which at any stage of the journey has been placed on, issued and traveled from, uttered by, or exited out of, my lips, safa any, my statements, language, and speech. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 34. Echad there is only one, Echad, once and for all, there is only one man, to whom I have affirmed the truth by having made a promise, Shabat, to whom I have validated my commitment through a sworn oath to be affirmed 7 times, Nifel perfect, at a point in time, the subject, YAHOWAH, made this promise and at another, he will honor it, by Kodesh any my uniquely set apart nature, ba Kodesh any, by that which is set apart from me. If not to, Imla, if it isn't regarding, Dowd the beloved, Dowd, I will be proven a liar, Kazab, I have communicated that which is not true and is deceptive and false, and in the end will have failed through deception and delusion, peel imperfect. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 35. By itself, apart from the rest of this soul-penetrating testimony, this declaration would rank among YAHOWAH's most influential statements. However, when combined with the other profoundly important pronouncements God has made throughout Dowd's song, this citation speaks more persuasively and passionately than any words ever written. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 33 through 35 is the bright line drawn by Yah in the sands of time. Presented in year 3000 Yah, 968 BCE, exactly 3,000 years after we were escorted out of Eden and 3,000 years before we will return to the garden. YAHOWAH unequivocally presented his most impassioned plea to his people. His focus was on his family and his foremost and firstborn son, Dowd. He is and these lyrics are the cornerstone of the family home. How is it then, with God being so uncompromising, that almost everyone denies that Dowd is the son of God, that he is the Messiah, the returning king, the chosen one, the exemplar of the covenant, a prophet, and the man who volunteered to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakowr becoming our savior? He is the one and there is no other. Even with the other 2 Zoroah, Moses predicted his arrival and accomplishments and Yada re-established that Dowd is the one, the only one. The collective merit of the Lord, Hashem, Jesus, and Allah is navel-lint by comparison, and frankly, that's being generous. We come to the Father through his Son. We please and honor God by our respect for what this man accomplished. While Yahowah has made Dowd as brilliant as the sun in his presence, the sum of rabbis doesn't amount to a dead firefly. Had Yehudim Jews listened, had they embraced and accepted Yahuwah's approach to Dowd and the covenant, Yisrael would have remained the brightest light in an enlightened world. The assaults of the Assyrians, Egyptians, Babylonians, Macedonians, and Romans would never have occurred. There would have been no Christianity or Islam, no Inquisition, Holocaust, 9.11, or 10.7. Ignoring Yahuwah comes at a very high price. Had Jews accepted what God said about his son, Dowd's return to fulfill the first 3 Moedim would have been celebrated, with God's people flocking to the covenant. Paul would have been immediately rebuked and discredited such that Christianity would never have existed. Akiba and his false messiah would have gone unheralded, nipping the emergence of Judaism in the bud. There would have been no diaspora and no oppression in Europe over the millennia. Without rabbis and their Talmud, Muhammad would not have had sufficient material to flesh out his Quran, and Islam would have died in Petra. There would be no Dome of the Rock, no Al-Aqsa Mosque, and no Islamic terrorism. There would be no one pretending to be Palestinians, either. If I might remind the religious, particularly the Haredi and Christians, you have done this to yourselves, necessitating Yahuwah's rebuke. Who are you to demand that God change everything he has said and done to accommodate you and your perverted religions? It is you who have called God a liar through your Talmud and New Testament. It is you who have replaced Yahuwah's covenant with one of your own. You are to blame, not me, for pointing out the obvious to you. In particular, Christians, believing Shayol Paul over father and son, have created the most common, and thus profane, religion in history by transferring the promises made to Dowd and to Yisrael to create the counterfeit, Jesus Christ, and turn the fable into a god. Shame on Christians for promoting contradictions of Yahuwah's pronouncements, for undermining the measure of his mercy and the reliability of his word. How did 150 generations of Jewish sages, scholars, and rabbis over the course of 3,000 years all manage to deny the obvious? Why did they collectively and individually deprive Jews of knowing Yahuwah through his son, Dowd? Why did they prevent the salvation of 100 million Jewish souls? Why isn't there a single credible Jewish sage, scholar, or rabbi on record affirming and promoting the impassioned message of Father and Son as narrated by God in this psalm? The survival of Yisrael and humankind, the salvation of souls, is predicated upon the words Yahuwah spoke to us 3,000 years ago in the 89th Mizmor. And this bold declaration does not stand alone but is, instead, reinforced by the entirety of the Torah and prophets. It is the same wonderfully consistent and enormously loving message throughout. This is just the grand crescendo of the chorus. They made it so because father and son fulfilled the micro-EY together. This is the cornerstone of the family home. Therefore, we enter Yahuwah's presence and embrace God through the Son. They are inseparable and they are becoming indistinguishable. And that is why Yahuwah declared that his son Dowd was Elion. It is also why his offspring and that which he sows for the harvests, Zerah, who, his descendants, his posterity, his family, and his seed, that which he propagates by having planted and cultivated, will exist and endure, Haya, have been, are, and will be, Kalim perfect, forever, La'alam, eternally throughout all time. And, Wa, his place of honor, his dignity and authority, as well as his adornment, Kais, who, his throne, seat of sovereign leadership and power, from Kais, authority and power and Kaza, to cover, clothe, and adorn, will be as, Ka, will be comparable to, brilliant as the sun, Ha-Shemesh, the sunlight, before me, Neged Eni, as my conspicuous counterpart in my presence, openly in proximity to me. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 36. Since it was important to God to repeat it, let's make sure we process it. Zerah is the actionable base of Zeroah, the sacrificial lamb when addressing Dowd and the one cultivating the harvests when speaking of his herald, Yada. Yahowah is not talking about seeds or fruit but, instead, saved souls. The harvest Dowd sowed was Bakowrim firstborn children. And as a result of Pesach and Matzah, he cultivated the harvests of Shabuah and Towrah. The covenant's children, who are his beneficiaries, will exist forever. Having performed in this way, by fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bakowrim, Dowd established his place of honor before Yahuwah. And while Yahuwah is infinitely more energetic than the hundreds of billions of stars in the hundreds of billions of galaxies that comprise the universe he created, his beloved son, Dowd, will be as brilliant as our nearest star. It wasn't until quite recently that I realized that I, as the third Zeroah and Dowd's Basar, am being equated to the moon. And this is because my job is to reflect the sun's brilliance. Since the moon is 400 times smaller, in diameter, than the sun, and since it has no light to share apart from the sun, we can perceive Dowd's and Yada's relative positions with Yahuwah. However, size isn't everything since the moon is 400 times closer to us than our nearest star. And this suggests that I will implement the king's will among his people. As for this difference in size, I say the greater, the better. Forevermore is Dowd's responsibility, while being his herald is my opportunity. Life is actually more enjoyable when opportunity exceeds responsibility, so I like my relative position. This known, I had once thought that upon Dowd's arrival, would be retired, not unlike Moses, even though I will have served 8 fewer years. And while I will get the demotion I have sought, retirement does not seem to be in the offing. Similar to Ka, in the manner of the moon, Yerich, he is established, Kun, he is appointed and prepared, trusted and set in place, Nifel in perfect third-person masculine singular, forevermore, Aulam, eternally throughout time, while serving as an enduring and reliable, truthful and dependable, YAHOWAH, being an easily verified, confident and trustworthy, loyal and nurturing, Nifel participle, witness, ed, symbol and informative source of restoring testimony, throughout the universe, BA in spacetime for laughter and play. Pause now and contemplate what you have just read, Selah. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 37. We should not be surprised after all of this that the Son of God will be established forevermore, or that he will continually serve as a reliable and truthful witness, even that his domain has been increased from Yisrael to the universe. What is surprising is that his cohort, the one reflecting his brilliance, will serve in a similar capacity and over the same territory. So, I'll not be making vacation plans anytime soon. Since I am one to muse the implications of things, to Selah in YAHOWAH's parlance, I perceive several relevant insights. As the greater luminary, Dowd is the star performer bringing us to God. However, since it's the moon that designates the timing of the mode, Yada's role is to elucidate their timing, revealing when each was and will be fulfilled. And as part of this proposition, I am responsible for explaining who is fulfilling each while conveying the purpose of doing so. Recognizing that Dowd made the Shabuah and Towrah harvests possible, my job is to cultivate what my king has sown. And by doing so, I am gathering the audience that will be celebrating his homecoming. But there is one day, on Yom Teruah, where my role, at least for the moment, is on par with the Zoroas. And that is perhaps why there will be a solar eclipse during the sacrifice of the red heifer. For this tiny sliver of eternity, YAHOWAH's right hand will be on me, assuring me that I have nothing to be anxious about in this regard. He has it all under control, right to the point of orchestrating an eclipse of the sun billions of years in advance of this day. Also revealing, since I will be happily relegated to second fiddle by Sukkah, 2 weeks later, on that day, the sun will project the earth's shadow over what would have been a full moon, eclipsing me at the perfect moment in time. When we come to appreciate the relationship between Dowd and Yada, the sun and the moon, we gain an appreciation for what YAHOWAH was revealing during the fourth day of creation. It was then that he spoke of a greater and lesser luminary and how they would serve to define the Moedim appointed times for the restoring witnesses. Dowd fulfills the greater Micro while I the lesser. And together we illuminate the way YAHOWAH's engagement with mankind plays out through the years. And if I may add a fourth insight, if you are among those who disrespect Dowd, preferring one of the counterfeits, or dislike me, preferring to listen to Paul, Akiba, or Muhammad, you're going to fit in better in hell than heaven. Our witness will be pervasive over time and space. And we do not like those who do not like Yehudim. We are not fond of the overtly political or religious either. We have reached the transition within the 89th Mizmor from benefit to consequence. This is the portion of Dowd's song that was alluded to in 2 Shamuel 7 when YAHOWAH predicted that his people would deny and denigrate his son and king. And this is a serious problem because Dowd exemplifies and represents more than one individual man. Even more than Jacob, Dowd is Yisrael. The promises made to him were made to them, from being the children of God and heirs to the covenant, to being recipients of the land. His joys and heartaches, his ongoing battles with Goyim, his insights and confusion, the benefits he enjoyed in concert with the covenant and the consequences he endured when he ran afoul of it are all shared by the nation he shepherded. It was in concert with Dowd representing Yisrael, and of Yisrael's contribution to annulling the truths we have just considered, that these words were prophetically inscribed in parallel with 2 Shamuel 7. After all, it is Yisrael that has. But now, you, yourselves, have refused to accept, creating a foul stench by snubbing, Zanuck, your stagnation and lack of movement has caused you to be excluded and thrown out for a time, Cal perfect, such that, you have rejected by diminishing the merit of, even spurning over time by repudiating the essence of, Ma'az, you have minimized the value of, thereby limiting your relationship with and reliance upon so as to incur a festering wound caused by dissolving every sensible connection, Cal imperfect, improperly, and on your own initiative, meddling while presumptuously passing over, unjustifiably passing right by in antipathy, somehow displeased with the affairs, and yet acting on your own initiative, thereby eliminating, Hitpeel stem perfect conjugation, for a time, and on their own initiative, moving right past, is the basis of Pesach and thus Passover. Ada Mashyach your Messiah, I'm Mashyach Ada. You're anointed, the one set apart and prepared to serve you. Mizmor/lyrics to sing /Psalm 89 verse 38. I told you so. And Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are the impoverished result. Poorly played religious buffoons, and to think, you were forewarned 1,000 years in advance, and yet you promoted your contrarian views, nonetheless. To have rejected YAHOWAH's warning and played your religious tarot cards in a way that was far more mishugana than chutzpah. YAHOWAH's phrasing and timing are impeccable. He has affirmed this profound truth so many times in ways it's befuddling that as few as 1 in a million Yehudim acknowledge Dowd or that 5 billion Christians and Muslims bequeath the Greek variation of this title to a clumsy counterfeit. After enduring 2,000 years of harassment for failing to accept Jesus as their Messiah, it turns out Jews were correct. Now it's time to take the next step and recognize the Mashyach for who he truly is so that the family can be restored. If you are a descendant of Jacob, pause now and reflect upon this. Almost everything religious and secular Jews have claimed regarding their Hashem, David, their Mashyach, the fulfillment of the Moedim, and even the current year is inaccurate, appended, and incongruent. Please get with the program and embrace what Dowd represents, and then accept the realization that he is not only HaMashiach the Messiah but also the Son of God who served as the Pesach Isle. Do not pass over him in an ill-conceived attempt to validate the pathetic and antagonistic culture of Judaism. It's time to walk away from the waters of Meribah. I understand that Yehudim have been plagued over the centuries by those who foolishly believe Jesus Christ was the Messiah. And because Christians blame Jews for killing their counterfeit, the very idea of the Messiah being the Son of God and fulfilling Pesach is disorienting. And while there never was any rational reason for a Messiah named Jesus Christ, no validity to the religion of Christianity, no justification for the New Testament, or credibility in calling oneself a Christian, there has been incalculable harm perpetrated under these delusions. And while Christianity, second only to Islam, was the most horrific and anti-Semitic fraud ever perpetrated, the truth is sweet revenge. The Messiah was here, and he is the Son of God. He not only fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakowr, one does not have to change his name or append his identity to accept any one of the many hundreds of prophecies which point to him and what he has achieved. No Easter bunny or Santa Claus required. No Shitmas tree, dead God on a stick, funny-colored eggs, or sliced ham. Although, to be fair, since Shem means name and anti means against, Judaism was actually the most anti-Semitic religion because it removed Yahuwah's name 7,000 times from his testimony in the Torah, YAHOWAH Mizmor, while replacing it with the adversary's title, the Lord. This error in judgment and lapse in ethics has caused more harm to Yehudim Jews than any other. Had they listened to Yahuwah, they would not have been looking to the future for a Messiah to save them when he had already been the most prominent and protective man in their past. Dowd's identity would not have been changed to Jesus Christ, and Christianity's New Testament would have been stillborn, had the accolades and achievements of Yahuwah's Messiah been acknowledged by his people. In that it has been conveyed by Yahuwah, let's affirm a heartbreaking reality: Jews have been their own worst enemy. The hit peel stem, modifying abar, by improperly, and on your own initiative, meddling while presumptuously passing over your Messiah, proves it. This uncommon stem reveals that the religious have unjustifiably passed right by him in antipathy, somehow displeased with his affairs, all while acting on their own initiative, and, thus, not God's. Equally telling, abar is the basis of Pesach and thus Passover, equating the rejection of the Messiah with foregoing the purpose of the Mikra. On behalf of Yehuda and Yisrael, even the Goyim who are listening, accept and embrace the beloved Mashyach and Melech as your brother and as God's son, even as your shepherd, but mostly as your savior. Listen to Yahuwah's Bahar chosen one, the Kadosh set apart one of Yisrael, and concur with him because when it comes to God, Dowd is right. As for religious Jews, it is a perplexing irony. Wearing black and bobbing their heads up and down as if to exorcise their demons, they babble to their nameless GD in minions facing a stone wall while reciting Dowd's Mizmor from rote. If only they would consider what he had to say instead. If only their heads were not as hard as the Edomites' wall, some of what they recite might actually penetrate their thick skulls. But alas, it is not to be. Dowd's Mizmor and Yahuwah's Dabar are for the non-religious. It wouldn't take long for Yehudim to hit rock bottom. The fall from Dowd was swift and painful. It began with Solomon capitulating to accommodate the religious interests of his wives and concubines. And so forecasting Yisrael's impending and rapid descent, and of the consequence of religions they begot, Yahuwah declares. You have repudiated and renounced, Nayar, you have disavowed, refusing to even acknowledge and actually lack any respect for, Peel perfect, the covenant, Berith, the family, home, and relationship agreement, with your co-worker, Ebed Ada, of the one doing your work as your official advisor and associate, based upon Abad, to work. You have dishonored and defiled, Chalal, you have treated with contempt and desecrated by making common and no longer uniquely special, sullying and polluting, Peel perfect, his dedication, Nezer his respect and his unparalleled devotion, to the land, Laha Eretz. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 39. When Dowd is renounced, so are the Moedim he fulfilled. When Dowd is repudiated, so is the covenant he enabled. When Dowd is dishonored, the land to which he was devoted suffers. What I do not understand, and I don't think Yah does either, is, with the conditions of his covenant so liberating and uplifting, with the benefits so enriching and empowering, and with him proving that his promises are reliable, why disavow and replace what God is offering? With Dowd so generous, why disavow what he accomplished and reject what he has achieved for our benefit? For Jews who may be protesting, saying that they haven't repudiated Dowd because they honor David by having chosen to fly a flag emblazoned with his star, may I challenge said assumption by categorically stating that there was never a star of David and David isn't his name. Creating a false caricature of a man in this manner degrades his authentic nature. Hasn't enough of this already been done by Christians? If you want to honor Dowd, lift up Yahuwah's name and then refer to the Messiah as the Son of God. A little explanation may be helpful as we consider the next statement. The sheepfold, whose walls have been torn down, represents barriers around the covenant which were designed to keep the religious, political, conspiratorial, and ignorant out. You have broken down and destroyed, parrots, you have breached and in hostility shattered, negatively impacting with your opposition to, his entire sheepfold and all of its walls, Kol Gadrahu, the entirety of his protective enclosure and its hedges, from Gader, the fences put around it and the way he constructed it. You have caused, Sim, you have brought about, Kal perfect, the undoing, the degradation and destruction, Machada, the demolishing and ruination, to the point of disrepair by corrupting, from Ma, to question in Chada, what it means to miss the way, of his fortifications, Mipsarhu, of its defensive structure, from Batsar, to restrain from gathering, to cut off and make less accessible, withholding access. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 40. As a rebuke to every religion, Yahuwah has deliberately restricted access to his covenant, effectively keeping the religious and political out. Ignorant of or averse to the 5 instructional terms God set as his conditions for entry, men like Akiba and Paul have sought to annul the Almighty's intent while projecting their own. The Garden of Eden had walls. They were not there to keep Adam and Chawah locked inside as if they were prisoners but, instead, to keep the rest of humankind out because the outsiders were religious and violent and did not belong. The gone protective garden enclosure of Eden great joy was, as the name implies, fun, because the curmudgeons were excluded. And as was Eden, so will be Shemaim. As was God's relationship with Dowd, so it will be with all of the covenant's children. That is why this Mizmor/Psalm is so important. Dowd and the covenant continue to be integrated and indistinguishable, with the beloved upholding and representing the family such that an attack on one is an assault on the other. And since Jews plundered Dowd of his achievements and acclaim to Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, God has a bone to pick with them. All who pass by this way, Kol, Abar Derek, everyone crossing this path, plunder him, Shassas who, they pillage and ransack him, looting him. He has become, he is, scorned and abusively ridiculed, defied and upbraided, chirpa, insulted and held in contempt, even taunted by this disgraceful reproach, by those who claim some affinity with him, lashaken who, by those settling in close proximity, especially nations of people existing all around it and him, even as residents and neighbors. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 41. Claiming to have some affinity with David is common. His name appears in the New Testament, Talmud, and Quran, although in a derogatory fashion. Similarly, Christians, Jews, and Muslims, with wholly contradictory belief systems, all claim to be Abrahamic religions even though they degrade Abraham's legacy. Alleging similar origins, their gods share nothing in common. Christians are particularly guilty, lugging around the Old Testament with this tribute to Dowd David, along with their revised one which plunders his legacy. They claim an affinity for the boy who slew the giant and who sang the 23rd Psalm, not knowing that it is Yahowah, for whose name's sake, the song was written. Speaking of the religious, whether they be pilgrims or refugees, crusaders or jihadists, God says, "You have lifted up and exalted, you have raised up and have sought to bring credibility and distinction to, even tried to justify, the upper hand, Yamim, the right side, condoning the orientation and good fortune, even the direction, of his foes and adversaries, especially those who try to constrain and limit him, Zar. His opponents narrowing his scope by being contentious and troubling leading to an unfavorable result. You have caused all those who demonstrate animosity and rancor toward him, Kol Oyeb, you have made the opposition totally, to be delighted, Samak, elated." Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 42. God has made his point. He, as you'd expect of any loving father, is annoyed by what those who falsely claim to speak for him have done to denigrate his son and to sully and deny all they accomplished together. Sadly, it was Jews who gave the upper hand to those who would later seek to usurp and then destroy Dowd's credibility. The four most toxic belief systems were all founded and abetted by Jews, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and socialist progressive politics. By their failure to acknowledge that Dowd was the Messiah and Son of God, and that he returned to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakowr as predicted, Yehudim opened the door for Christianity. Through their denials, they helped justify replacement philology. For Christianity to differentiate itself from Yahowah and Dowd, from their Torah, Berith, and Mikri sufficiently to become popular with Greeks and Romans, they would need a New Testament. And yet for it to be believable, it would have to borrow heavily from Yahowah's testimony, claiming its prophecies as its own. Therefore, the new religion proposed that it was authorized by the same God and justified by the same prophecies. But that isn't rational because the revision contradicts the original. The magic for Christianity became what I have dubbed replacement philology. This sleight of hand wasn't simply about assigning the blessings and promises offered by God for Jews to the Gentiles who sought their eradication, it was about replacing one covenant with another and then Yahowah and Dowd with the Lord Jesus. If you don't concur, do what I've done. After scrutinizing Paul's renunciation of Dowd for the sake of his counterfeit, go to any Christian site and read their assessment of every prophecy pertaining to David that the Christian charlatan stole. You'll find that Jesus isn't named in a single prophecy, but every time Dowd's name appears, Christians insist that it actually applies to their Christ. It is as if God didn't know his own name, the difference between Hebrew and Greek, and couldn't discern between his son, Dowd, and the mythical counterfeit, Isoun. The Christian depiction of God became so senile and clueless, he couldn't remember who he anointed Mashyach. Inspired as a prophet to compose the Psalms, collaboratively fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakowr with, or would be returning with on Kippurim. And for that matter, to whom was he writing the 89th Mizmor, Santa Claus? The problem for Christians was as pervasive as it is profound. Without the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, they have no God and no credibility. But with them, they present a jumble of contradictions. Their only hope was for people to believe their lies long enough for faith to occlude judgment. They banked upon apathy and ignorance. And when that was not enough to control and fleece the masses, they turned to tyranny, treachery, and torture. And yet today, at least for some, there is a battle raging throughout the world for hearts and souls, a struggle between right and wrong. The loudest voices are of those who claim that they worship religious gods while the chorus of those who stand with Dowd and speak for Yahowah is currently faint among these billions. Most will continue to denigrate and deny the message of the herald. What's worse, and adding to the resentment, all the more to begrudge, you are turned around again, Shub, you have pivoted such that you are pointed in the opposite direction, Hyphal imperfect, such that you are averse to the sharp crag, Sur, you are antagonizing and attacking the rock, Kal infinitive, during his battle for Choreb who, of his fight with sword and chisel for the fire of Yah and revelation of his Torah, and, Wah, you do not stand with him or support him. Lo, Kyum you do not rise up or take a stand with him, Hyphal perfect, in this conflict, Ba ha milchama, in this fight between opposing parties, from Lakham, to engage in battle over yeasted bread, for Qps says, fourth battle. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 43. There is a plethora of tantalizing insights in this statement, beginning with the realization that Afa's primary connotation is to engender resentment and wrath. Those who continue to turn against Dowd will endure the sting of his judgment. Also interesting, while Tsur is translated as the edge in the Jewish Publication Society Holy Scriptures according to the Masoretic text, it was scribed as a verb. There was no definite article in the text and edge is not among Tsur's meanings had it been presented as a noun. Our options as a noun would have been sharp crag, rocky outcropping, cutting flint, or stone. However, as a verb presented in the Kal infinitive, Sur is not only active, but it also intensifies the actual and ongoing proceedings of laying siege, enclosing, confining, and antagonizing in a hostile, harassing, and adversarial fashion. This makes perfect sense because the perpetrators discrediting Dowd while renouncing his accolades are religious leaders, particularly rabbis, who have sought to constrain the Savior by assaulting his achievements. Further, if we are to read rocky crag or stone into this depiction, it was upon this sharp rocky edifice that Yahowah first revealed his fiery light to Moses and then the children of Yisrael upon Mount Towrah, where he would also reveal his Torah. It is the crag that Moses inappropriately struck to bring living water to the people. Moreover, it is my contention that Dowd's song is the cornerstone of the covenant home and that it was revealed in the Babel. Year of 3000 968 BCE, 4 years into Solomon's reign as construction began on Yahowah's home. Further, today, Yahowah is waging this battle over a return to Towrah, which is to him, the Torah, Berith, and YYV3C4, through a fellow whose given name is Craig, which is Celtic for sharp rocky crag. It's Yah's way of saying, I know who you are even if they do not. As I'm sure almost everyone is aware, the Hebrew name for the mountain upon which Yahowah introduced himself to Moses and then revealed the Torah is Towrah. Spelled the same way in the text, it also serves as the Hebrew word for dry and desolate, battle and conflict, sword and chisel. And while we can choose any definition that works within this context, we are prudent to include each that fits so as not to deprive the reader of the full intent. Moreover, just as crag conveys more than mineral, Towrah is more fluid than desolate. In this case, I see Dowd standing astride the two mountains of God, Towrah and Moriah, bringing the Torah to the heart of the land and fulfilling it in the city of Dowd. This is not only evident by the king's marvelous dissertation on the Torah's teaching in the 119th Mizmor but also by his serving as the Pesach Isle. After all, where do you think he came up with the idea? There is a battle being waged for the souls of humankind. The religious are on one side and father and son are on the other. And while Judaism and Christianity have written Yahowah and Dowd, Towrah and Moriah, the Torah and YYV3C4 out of their story, father and son have deployed a sharp crag to bring them to Yisrael's attention. This war of words has raged for the past 3,000 years, to Dowd or not to Dowd. It is the ultimate question because where we stand with Dowd characterizes where we stand with God. With the exception of those who have come to know Yahowah and his beloved Son, many, if not all, through these books, this remains true of almost everyone else. You have truncated, causing a cessation to all of the work, Shabat. You have made this like a Sabbath for doing nothing, Hyphal perfect, removing and taking away from, Min, his purifying brilliance and means to restore, along with his glorious status, Taharhu, his majesty and ability to renew, his clear and illuminating approach, especially the means to being purified and pronounced clean. And his position of honor, dignity, and power, Wakais, who, his throne, royal authority, and appointed status, even his brilliant adornment, you have hurled to the ground, Lamager ha Eretz, you have thrown into the dirt, tossing it from the land, Cal perfect. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 44. Clearly, God is disgusted. He is disappointed that the beloved Son whom he anointed as his Mashyach, the shepherd he chose to establish his covenant family, and the sacrificial lamb who opened heaven's door, has been so universally discounted and defrauded by religious Jews. They have done to Dowd what they have done to the Shabat, reducing both from a celebration of the covenant relationship to doing nothing. And in this case, by either failing to read the words Yahowah inspired in Dowd's song or failing to act upon them, the advocates of Judaism brought untold misery upon God's people. The failure of rabbis to recognize and capitalize upon what Dowd represents and has accomplished is the fulcrum upon which the Jewish people have descended when they should have ascended. They were given the opportunity to restore their relationship with Yahowah and come clean by accepting Dowd's fulfillment of Chag Matzah. They would have been welcomed back into the covenant by embracing Dowd's glorious status as the Messiah and King, Shepherd and Lamb. But the rabbis not only forewent all of this, they hurled Dowd's dignity away, tossing it to the ground. Dowd was chosen by Yahowah and anointed with his spirit at 8 years old. And from what we have discovered, his best writing and his most profound spiritual insights were distilled within these songs when his mind was young and receptive and when he was fraught with the fewest distractions. Over time, the relentless burden of being responsible for rebellious ingrates grew wearisome, as it did for Moses. And if I may speak to this, while half his age, like Moses, I was asked to spar with Israel's foes while saving Yehudim from themselves, later in life. And like Moses, I have given it my all from sunrise to sunset, doing so for what will be a quarter century in the first phase and 32 years before Dowd takes back over. By that time, I will have given my full measure of devotion, writing and saying more than all of the prophets combined. And in the end, I will offer my life so that Yisrael might live. Yahowah has always been the perfect father and a delight to serve alongside, but there is only so much that can be borne by a human body, eyes, ears, and mind. And so, while I understand that my role is to give voice to their achievements, there is a lot to know, understand, and share. And no one who knows him wants to disappoint God. There are 2 upcoming harvests, Shabuah in May 2026 at the beginning of the time of Yaakov's troubles and Teruah in September 2033 at its conclusion. Assuring that they are plentiful and productive is the current mission. As for others, you have deprived yourselves of what is required to reap the benefits of the harvest, Katsar, you are lacking what is needed by depreciating his essential essence, on the days, Yaumim, the time, when his robust presence was concealed as a young man, Alumim who, when he was vigorous and obscured, manifesting tremendous strength of character, plural, from Elam, to cloak and veil, Elam, in the past and forevermore, Elam, while young. You have covered over him, Ada Alhu, you have enveloped and clad him, enwrapping and veiling him, shamefully by diminishing his status, Busha, plundering, dishonoring, and dismissing his purpose. Take a moment and consider the implications, Selah, pause now to reflect on this. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 45. There is a consequence to being wrong, especially when what someone believes is in conflict with what Yahowah has made known to us. The religious cheat themselves when they deny and deprive Dowd of what rightfully belongs to him because it shortchanges what he could otherwise offer them. In this case, religious Jews are being accused of depriving themselves of what Dowd has provided such that they are not harvestable on Shabuah or Teruah. They have vigorously obscured what our Savior achieved during the fulfillment of Pesach and Matzah. They do not even acknowledge Dowd's robust presence in Jerusalem in the Yobel year of 4033 CE, even though he provided them with the exact day he would enter the city as their Messiah to fulfill Passover in Daniel 9. Instead of admiring, respecting, and appreciating the Son of God and sacrificial lamb, they have veiled him in shame, disgracefully covering over what he achieved and, thereby, dishonoring him while depriving themselves. Christianity and Judaism were conceived and exist today in defiance of this declaration from God in the 89th Mizmor. And that is foolish. In the next line, the psalmist asks a rhetorical question for God's people to ponder, for which there is no good answer. God is annoyed, grieved, and anguished, he is appalled and disgusted that his beloved Son, his chosen one, the king he anointed, the shepherd he groomed, the prophet he inspired, and the lamb he deployed has been so summarily and universally discounted and counterfeited. It is not for Yah to answer this question but, instead, for us to consider why this would be so. While the interval of time being questioned would be measured in millennia, being unknown to his people for this long was counter to everything God intended. And Yahuwah has done his part, making it relatively easy for those who are serious in their pursuit to know him. He has provided, and simultaneously validated, his revelation to us. Within his prophetically proven testimony we are given everything we need to know to engage in a relationship with our Father, to be invited into his home as part of his family. And, of course, all of this was tremendously enhanced by the discovery and publication of the Dead Sea Scrolls, providing us with a much earlier and more accurate rendering of the text. I know this to be true, not only because I was able to figure it out by reading, actually by more accurately translating, what the prophets had revealed, but because I was chosen. There would have been no reason for Yah to work with a Gawi if there had been a receptive Yahud. This also explains God's decision to deploy a Cowl voice, Basar herald, Ada restoring witness, and Choder secondary branch, as a Zeroah sowing and cultivating seeds for the harvest by way of a Nakar observant foreigner who would come to Yada know rather than through another Nabi prophet, as he had done before. By taking this approach, Yahuwah would demonstrate to his people that since Atsur Crag was able to figure everything out based on what his previous prophets had revealed, they should have been able to do the same. Further, by relying on prophecies, the message being conveyed would be readily available and easily verified. Why do you think that I initiated this unique style of providing amplified translations in which the Hebrew basis for the revelations is provided within the text? And why do you suppose that I consistently correct the Masoretic text by referring to the Dead Sea Scrolls, which not so coincidentally were published the year I began? There are thousands of revealing and profoundly important insights presented within the 20,000 pages of translations and commentary provided within the YAHOWAH branded books, most all of which had eluded man's grasp and comprehension for the past 2,000 to 3,000 years. And they are all proven accurate by properly presenting what Yahuwah revealed long ago through his prophets, men like Moses, Yahushua, Shamuel, Dowd, Yashaya, Yirmiah, Haushah, Chabakuk, Zechariah, Yoel, and Malachi. And woven into their words were the threads of the greatest discoveries in human history, the most marvelous of which is the realization that Dowd, as the Messiah and Son of God fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakowr to enable the Shabuah and Teruah harvests in advance of his Kippurim return, along with the realization that the covenant family is returning to Eden during Sukkah so that we can camp out with our Father. The reason that so few have availed themselves of this marvelous opportunity is that religion and politics, militarism and conspiracy, have gotten in the way and obscured the view and cluttered the path. And so, from year 3000-968 BCE until very recently with the advent of Yada Yahowah, Yahuwah's name and nature remained hidden. And based upon what we have read throughout the prophets and psalms, Yahuwah is enormously displeased. For how long, Adma, until when will the eternal witness and restoring testimony of Yahuwah, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of the name of Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence and our shalom, restoration, will you remain hidden, concealed, and virtually unknown, Sadhar, will you be a secret to many? Your righteous indignation, overt displeasure, and furious antagonism, Kima, Ada, your hostile response to all that is wrong, is kindled and burns, Baar, is ignited and ablaze, Kal imperfect, eminently and prominently, La Netzach, majestically for an enduring period, like fire, Kamo Esh, similar to burning flames. You have chosen to remind me, Zakar Eni, your will is to recall this information and these events to me, asserting these truths for me, Kal imperative second person masculine singular, to ask about the duration of life in this world and temporary things by contrast to eternity, especially how time flows differently relative to the observer, Machield. What is one lifetime and how long will things continue to transpire in this world at the present pace? Mizmor/lyrics to sing Psalm 89 verses 46 to 47. The last time a majority of Yisraelites knew Yahuwah was 3,000 years ago under Dowd's initial reign as king, continuing through the initial years under his son, Solomon. Since that time, and until the turn of the 21st century, that number dwindled to zero. It would not be until I began to share the translations and insights compiled within the Yada Yahowah series online that this began to change. And to think, the 1.8 million Haredi, 1.3 million in Israel representing 14% of the Jewish population, are so intellectually incapacitated by their rabbis, they will continue to engender Yahuwah's overt antagonism and burning indignation without any hope of future awareness. All the while, they disparage father and son by claiming that their appalling religion is righteous. The situation is no better among the unthinking, hypocritical, and morally compromised Israeli progressives who represent another 13% of the Israeli population. They are particularly harmful inside Israel for dividing the nation and globally for having allied with the death cult of Islam against God's people. Their mass protests in Tel Aviv, under the pretense of being either pro-democracy or pro-hostage, are neither. Fortunately, of the over 70% of Jewish Israelis who are neither ultra-Orthodox nor ultra-liberal, all but the most rabid right-wingers are among those who may reconsider what YAHOWAH said and Dowd did before it's too late. These books are presented under the YAHOWAH brand for a reason. It seems more appropriate to please our God rather than continually antagonize him. There are already 1,800,000 shrill Jewish religious voices split between the United States and Israel, 5.7 million Jewish progressives split between the two nations, millions more right-wing wackos, and another 2.5 billion Christians and 1.9 billion Muslims fanning the flames of divine wrath. 3 millennia is a very, very long time, at least by our standards, but perhaps not by God's. Time does not flow for him as it does for us. Unlike creatures bound to the earth, YAHOWAH, as a spiritual being, determines how he experiences time, varying the pace of its flow to suit his needs. The 19 to 20 centuries that have crawled past since the Messiah, Dowd, fulfilled Chag Matzah were so horrid, it's unlikely God paid attention to anything that occurred during that span. Therefore, when considering all that has occurred during the past 6 millennia, it behooves us to perceive time from YAHOWAH's perspective, recognizing that it contracts and expands as is appropriate. Fortunately, we have reached the conclusion of this interval. With each word we translate and share, YAHOWAH becomes less hidden and unknown to his people. The Shabuah and Towrah harvests will be prolific. And when father and son return on Yom Kippurim, the day of reconciliations in year 6000 Yah, October 2nd at sunset, 2033 in Jerusalem, both will be known to the extent it is possible. This is the stated purpose for his Choder secondary branch, Nakri observant foreigner, and Nes banner. Moreover, within 6 years of this writing, arriving on the 1st of Abib in 2030, April 4th, we can expect Yah is God/Elijah to join Yada he knows, so that the world recognizes in no uncertain terms just how displeased God is with humankind. And now it gets personal, as it should with all of us. Was it for nothing, Al-Mashawah, was it for this worthless religious vanity, that you created, Bara, that you conceived and brought into existence once upon a time, Cal perfect, each of the sons of Adam, Kol Beni Adam, all of humankind? Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 47. Since the question has been asked, I'm going to share what I have come to understand by considering this theme in the Torah and prophets. God's position is most overtly stated in his last words to Yisrael at the conclusion of Malachi in 447 BCE, presented in chapter 2 of this volume, Voice. According to the Almighty, had he not engaged to work with Yada from Teruah in 2001 to trumpets in 2033, the earth would have been destroyed. Apart from Dowd and those who preceded and accompanied him in the covenant, it would all have been for naught. And even then, many would have been put at risk because the promises YAHOWAH made about Shabuah, Teruah, Kippurim, and Sukkah would not have materialized. Stated differently, there is no happily ever after in the covenant family without all 3 Zeroah. Moses was called to liberate the children of Yisrael and convey the Torah, along with its Berith and Mikri Y. Dowd was called to live, explain, and fulfill the Torah through its Berith and Mikri Y. And Yada was called to bring YAHOWAH, Moses, Dowd, the Torah, Berith, and Mikri Y to the forefront, back to the attention of Yisrael, reintroducing the wayward children to all they have forgotten and spurned. Had YAHOWAH not done so, had he been content to allow Jews to figure this out on their own, and expect that after 3,000 years of neglect they would suddenly see the light in the last 30 years, and then do an about-face, it would not have occurred. There would have been no one to harvest and not a single attendee at the intended homecoming. Without anyone to reconcile, there would be no return, no family reunion, no cleansing of the planet, no restoration of life in the garden, and no one with whom to camp out. The reason that there are so many marvelous prophecies pertaining to what we are accomplishing together is because it is essential. Religion gives way to relationship, antagonism becomes appreciation, wrong becomes right. What man of great strength and character, empowered to prevail, my Jeber, who, as the most capable and courageous of men, lives, Chaya, is actually and continually alive, Cal in perfect third-person masculine singular, and, Wa, will not witness, Wa lo, Ara, will not see, Cal in perfect third-person masculine singular, death as a result of the plague, moth, dying from the pandemic disease which infects and destroys a great many people, Peel in perfect third-person masculine singular. Saving his soul, Malat Nipeshu, delivering and sparing his consciousness, rescuing his inner nature, Peel in perfect third-person masculine singular, from the hand and influence, Min Yad, from the effects and acts, of Shayol, question him, the Benjamite wolf in sheep's clothing who as a result of being demon-possessed changed his name to reflect his affinity with Rome, becoming Paul, the principal author of the Christian New Testament, the father of lies and the son of evil. Pause now and consider what this implies, Selah, take the time required to contemplate the implications. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 48. Every verb, and there were 4 in this question, was scribed in the third-person masculine singular, designating a single man as the subject. And he is the one initially presented as a Jeber great man, a person of courage and character, imbued with the strength to prevail. God is, therefore, addressing his son who is very much alive. And while he would experience the death of his corporeal body twice, once from old age and the other at the torturous hands of Rome, mankind's most deplorable civilization, his soul endures. It has and will never experience death. Dowd is the antidote for the toxic venom spewed from Shayol's Paul's poison pen. He was not only immune to the plague of death, but he has also provided the antibodies with which to fight the viruses of Christianity and Judaism. So, while many are saved by what he accomplished, he is the only one who offers salvation. Since it is obvious, let's be clear, this is addressing Shayol, the man, not Sheol, the place. Sheol does not have hands or influence. The pit of separation can neither plague us nor kill us. In fact, Sheol, as a prison of eternal incarceration, is the antithesis of death for those who endure it. As a black hole, nothing reaches out from Sheol. However, it was the hand of Shayol that wrote the 14 epistles which have plagued mankind. It is under his influence that Christianity was conceived and popularized among Goyim. He is the master manipulator behind diminishing Dowd's influence, the hand that has sought to denigrate the Messiah, Son of God, and Passover lamb such that he could replace him with his counterfeit. Shaul Paul has plagued far more people than the billions of souls who were coerced or beguiled into placing their faith in the religion he fathered at the behest of Satan. Without the son of evil and the father of lies, Goyim would not have come to blame or hate Jews sufficiently to cause Rome, which was where Paul's allegiance lay, to massacre and enslave the chosen people, robbing Yehudim of their homeland. The Roman Catholic Church, which was based on Paul's letters, would not have propagated the anti-Semitic culture and conspiracies that culminated in the Holocaust without Paul's self-loathing. Muhammad, likewise, would never have succeeded in establishing a religion predicated upon anti-Semitism without the foundation laid by his predecessor. In fact, the Quran even refers to the New Testament using Paul's terminology, Injil for Evangelion. Further, without Paul's propensity to promote a cult following and promulgate ignorance and irrationality such that they became commonplace and, indeed, established as politically correct, the growth of multicultural socialist secular humanism would have been truncated in the West. The entire impetus behind liberal politics was sanctioned by Paul on behalf of the Romans to impose a religious seal for the most liberal use of government. Shaul Paul has become the chosen people's fiercest and most embittered adversary. He is responsible for the death and estrangement of more souls than any other. To escape his grasp is difficult because the integrated religious and political scheme he concocted, read Romans 13, has tread upon the entire world, suppressing truth and impeding freedom. Shaul will endure eternity in Sheol, and his replacement philology will die at the hand of Dowd and his herald, such that the man whose life and lyrics he sought to disparage will send him to hell. And while I have pleaded for the opportunity to convict him, it's mizmor like this which will be brought to bear against Paul. Dowd will get the debate he has sought. And the outcome is written in stone. Shaul will become synonymous with the place whose name he shares, Sheol hell. At least, Shaul earned naming rights. While I have correctly associated King Dowd with all of this, he will not work alone. His herald has composed the most effective expose against Paul, Jesus, the New Testament, and Christianity ever compiled in the 5 volumes of Twistianity. It is one of the many ways Yahowah, Dowd, and Yada have and will continue to work together for the benefit of humankind. However, it would be such a long time coming, we find God inspiring yet another probing question. Where, Ayah, posing a rhetorical question regarding an individual's position, is your unwavering love and enduring favoritism, Chisat Ada, your devotion to the familial relationship and unfailing kindness, your genuine affection and merciful treatment, which was expressed first and foremost in the beginning, re-shown, as the initial priority, as the most important consideration of what was occurring from the start, preceding this and of old, which you promised, Shabat, you truthfully proclaimed and affirmed as part of your binding oath on 7 occasions, to Dowd the beloved, La Dowd, to love and be loved in return, in harmony with your steadfast commitment to being trustworthy and reliable, Immuna Ada, by way of your honesty and dependability, by being completely truthful, genuine, and real such that you can be trusted and relied upon, my upright one, Idown any. My upright pillar, addressing the vertical beam which secures and enlarges a home, especially the tent of the enduring witness. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 49. When we read a question in an inspired text such as this, the prophet not only knows the answer, but he has already provided it. Such is the case here with Immuna trustworthy and dependable presented throughout Dowd's song and repeated within this question. Therefore, because Yahowah is consistent and forthright, he is reliable. The things which he has favored from the beginning are the things he loves. These would include being creative and enjoying an active and conversational relationship with humankind in a pristine environment. And since the formation of the Berith covenant with Abraham and Sarah is the dominant theme of Berith YTH Genesis, this family is Yahowah's first love. This is underscored by the realization that the remainder of the Torah is focused on liberating the children of Yisrael from human religious and political oppression, then teaching and guiding them so that they might come home and live with their father. However, since it takes 2 for love to blossom and grow, and because the Yisraelites could not refrain from stumbling over themselves in a nauseating fashion, are returned to his original preference, which was to form and enjoy an individual and personal relationship with one man. God chose Dowd the beloved. He became his Bakowr firstborn son. And through this single solitary life, the entire story of Yisrael and the covenant is relived, retold, and resolved. Rather than give up on people, God worked alongside the best among us. And even then, as it was with Adam, they were unsteady, at one moment soaring into the heavens and in the next stumbling on earth. But this time would be different because of the attributes Dowd manifested. He was brilliant and articulate, a voracious reader and voluminous writer, God's most learned student and most effective teacher. Dowd achieved where Adam failed. He not only paid attention and valued Yah's advice, but he also understood it and shared what he had come to comprehend with us. Under Dowd's guidance, Yisrael was united in God's home. They were protected and thrived, at least until they lost focus and stumbled once again and fell. This time, however, Dowd, recognizing that he had become part of the problem, solved it once and for all. He realized what had taken me a score of years to learn, although, to my credit, I was the first since Yoel, Zechariah, and Malachi to share his conclusion with his people. While confirming the covenant on Moriah, and in the midst of a discussion between father and son, Dowd understood that there had been a promise. He recognized that in the Yobel year of 2000 Yah, as a harbinger of Passover, God said that he would provide the lamb. Dowd further realized that the Pesach Isle had also been instrumental in providing life and liberty for the children of Yisrael in Mitzrayim. A student of the Torah, the Messiah read that on Matzah, they had walked out of the realm of religious and political oppression. He saw that they were reborn into the covenant as they emerged from the sea. And as a bright lad, he rightly concluded that the Torah's enriching enlightenment had been initially offered during Shabuah. The stage was set for the fulfillment of these Mikra at a later date, with Abib's Moedim honored 40 Yah from the day of the promise to Abraham in year 2000 Yah. This would place Dowd back on Mount Moriah in 33 CE/year 4000 Yah. Having written the ultimate treatise on the Torah in his 119th Mizmor, Dowd would have understood as we have, that with the fulfillment of the first three mode, the benefits of the Berith would be assured. So, he manned up, Jibboared in God's parlance, and volunteered to do the right thing. His Basar corporeal body became the Passover lamb while his Nepesh soul carried Yisrael's guilt into Sheol, depositing it there, never to be seen again. The father's firstborn was Bakowr to enable the Shabuah and Teruah harvests, living up to his title while underscoring the promise of 7 and the herald of the shofar. The covenant was now firmly established. Its benefits were reliably provided. The harvests would occur, and the homecoming was certain once properly heralded. Problem resolved. Thanks to father and son, those who accept their gift will live forever, perfected and adopted, enriched and empowered. The Jibber would prevail, given 3 lives, his soul and ours are saved. Heaven's door was opened. Our relationship was reconciled. We were invited back into the Gan Eden. And that is why the poem of insights to contemplate and comprehend by being circumspect about the productive and beloved native-born strong arm who is cherished, concludes. My upright one, Idown, any, my upright pillar and foundation, addressing the vertical beam which secures and enlarges a home, especially the tent of the enduring witness, you remember and have chosen to mention that you are mindful of, Zakar, you recall and never forget to proclaim the truth, Kal imperative, the contemptible and condescending taunts and the dishonorable and deplorable decrees which were determined, Chirpa, the disgraceful slurs and harmful insults, the reprehensible decisions and supposedly authorized judgments which were appalling, Peel perfect, by all of the many nations and preponderance of the people, Kol Rabim Am, by the totality of the human family, by every ethnicity, and by the most exalted of countries, against those who work with you, Ebed Ada, your co-workers, associates, authorized individuals, and servants who labor along with you, which I have now brought to bear. Nasa, any, I have carried forward and have endured, in my best judgment. B.A. Heck. From my chest which is the place my core values reside. Mizmor 89:50. That is because, Asher, revealing their relationships and way, those in open opposition to you, Oyeb Ada, your enemies and adversaries, those who show their animosity, enmity, and rancor toward you, are insulting with their bewildering derision and improperly discerned contempt, so as to discredit in an abusive manner, Asher Cherif, they are defiant and evil, causing people to think irrationally, confounding them through blasphemy, Peel perfect, the footsteps, Bakeb, the unwavering, and reliable movements and willingness to dig in his heels, of Mashyach Ada your Messiah, Mashyach Ada, your anointed, YAHOWAH, YAHOWAH, an accurate transliteration of the name of Eloah, God guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his Hayah, existence and our Shalom, reconciliation. Mizmor/Psalm 89 verse 51. Blessed by having knelt down in love to lift up is, Barak, commended and favored are the circumstances and result of the excellent words and example of, YAHOWAH, YAHOWAH, forevermore, La'olam, for all eternity. This is trustworthy, verifiable, and reliable, Aman wa Aman, this is correct and true, affirmed and supported, established, readily acceptable, clearly stated, and dependable. Mizmor/lyrics to sing/Psalm 89 verse 52. This is the second appearance of Idown my upright one in this song, with the first scribed in the opening credits. There, I explained that it was the psalmist attributing the song to his king, Dowd. And so here I have chosen to be consistent. Therefore, the you statements are addressed to Dowd as the subject of the psalm, which is why they were presented in lowercase. Dowd was chosen by YAHOWAH to serve Yisrael as their Messiah, which is why the king is mindful of those who robbed his son of this distinction in order to promote religious counterfeits and political substitutes. Not only is the Messiah aware that most have bought into the schemes to deny him his due, he is committed to holding them accountable for the crimes of identity theft, fraud, and mass murder. There is one Mashyach Messiah and Ben, El Son of God, and he is Dowd beloved. He is Yahuwah's Bahar chosen Ebed co-worker, and Ad Olam eternal and restoring witness, and our Melech king. This Mishal articulate leader is the Jibboahr God's most competent and courageous man, our Yasha, Savior because he is the Areah shepherd and Zeroah, sacrificial lamb. Many would lead God's people astray, but one would save them. Many have been wrong, but one was right. Need anyone say more? Yod Hey Wah Hey.